Dawn and a colleague from the lab, studying genetics, pored over the results. Using an electron scanning microscope, Jeff, the tech, spotted something. "Here, take a look and tell me I'm wrong," he muttered. Dawn looked at the blood, seeking out the cells Jeff had pointed to. What he saw shocked him, and he blurted out the first thing on his mind. "Some of these cells don't even look human. They look almost reptilian." Just what kind of child is she? Dawn didn't know what to think. Robin seemed like a normal child on the surface, but thinking back on her story about being a boy, he wondered if she was indeed telling the truth. If so, this could be a significant breakthrough in genetics if published. But the idea of Robin being made into a specimen to be prodded, tested, and isolated by scientists made his blood run cold. Deciding to prevent that at all costs, he put all the blood samples into the waste receptacle. Jeff looked at him in confusion. Dawn shrugged. "It's obviously contaminated. No other explanation is possible, right?" Dawn lied, trying to cover the evidence. Jeff shrugged and turned back to his real work, while Dawn wiped the data from the computer. Dawn went back to his rounds, while the whole Robin mystery niggled at the back of his mind. That evening, while watching Animal Planet on TV, he pondered just how the inclusion of reptilian DNA could cause such drastic changes in a human being. He became captivated by a segment on chameleons, and the idea clicked. Maybe Robin had somehow been genetically modified with chameleon DNA. It was a stretch, but nothing else fit so neatly. If that were the case, her ability to change sex might have been a response to some kind of threat. Dawn knew that he had to get Robin out of the orphanage somehow. Going to the phone, he made a call. "What's going on?" "Hello, is Mrs. Knight there?" "Thank you. I'll wait." "Hi, it's Dawn." "Yes, I'm fine, thank you." "Look, I need a favor." "Great, I'll come over tomorrow." 9 o'clock? "Great, see you then." At the orphanage. 2 days after Robin's return. Robin was exhausted from the work and the lack of proper food. She had been given only some bread and water in the morning to last her the entire day. The arduous work in the kitchen drained all her strength. She staggered under the weight of the large water-filled pans, nearly falling once or twice, lightheaded from hunger and fatigue. The other girls tried to help when the cook wasn't looking, but it wasn't enough to offer much assistance. Finally, while trying to move a boiling pot to the sink for draining, she slipped and fell, splashing herself with the near-boiling water. Luckily, Becky was standing by the sink and immediately threw a bucket of cold water over her, helping to prevent more serious burns. Robin had fallen unconscious and never felt the first aid administered by the nurse. The quick action by Becky had prevented the boiling water from doing more than causing a few blisters and patches of reddened skin. Becky helped Robin to bed and volunteered to look after her. Matron was angry. Her plan to break Robin's will and force her cooperation had backfired. Now, she had an injured child with nothing to show for it. Her plan to exploit Robin was on hold for the moment, but Matron knew there would always be ways to profit from others' suffering. Her usual dealings, selling girls into forced labor, had worked to her advantage in the past. Most of the government funds meant to care for the children had been siphoned off into her private account, and she dreamed of retiring wealthy, her ill-gotten gains intact. A knock on the office door interrupted her thoughts. "Come. Matron, there's someone to see you." "She has a girl with her," the staff member said nervously. "Show her in," Matron replied, relishing the thought that her staff, much like the children, were under her thumb. She had carefully selected them, knowing their secrets, ensuring their loyalty under threat of exposure. Moments later, a hunched woman entered, dressed in a shawl and using a cane. Her appearance left much to be desired, with heavy makeup poorly applied, and she wore a gypsy-like dress that went down to her ankles. She had a girl about 16 years old with her. The girl was holding a large stuffed bear, worn out with tufts of fur and one eye missing. The young girl swayed, making soft, incoherent sounds as if she were listening to music only she could hear. Matron gestured to the chair for the woman to sit. "Now, what can I do for you?" Matron asked. I've come about my child. I can't cope with her anymore, the woman cackled. She's a mute, poor thing. Born late in my life, she's become too much for me to handle. I need for her to be fostered out to a good home, she added. I'll pay for her upkeep while she's here if you'll take her off my hands. Matron looked at the girl, weighing her options. Great. Another addition to the orphanage, and more money in the process, she thought. Certainly. Do you have her records with you? Matron asked, smiling as she took the envelope the woman supplied. Ah, thank you, Matron said as she reviewed the papers. I see her name is Misty. Does she respond to it? Matron demanded. Well, she recognizes it when I call her, if the noises she makes are any indication, the woman replied. Matron called for a staff member to take the girl and get her settled in while she worked on the paperwork with the mother. When the staff member tried to take the girl, she made the mistake of attempting to remove the bear. The girl moaned loudly, clutching the bear to her chest. The mother stepped in, saying that her daughter never let go of the bear and that for peace and quiet, it was easier to let her keep it. Once the woman's task was done, she hobbled slowly out past the gate, turned down the road, and was soon out of sight. Had the guard at the entrance been observant enough, he might have seen her glance back, straighten up without the cane, and walk smoothly toward a waiting car. Misty wandered around the orphanage holding her bear, looking at everything as if to show it the new surroundings. Her soft moans grated on everyone's nerves, and she often wandered by herself. She visited the kitchens, ignoring the cook's shouts to leave, and looked around, even inspecting the food bins. While Matron was checking on Robin, Misty wandered into her office, oblivious to the consequences. Robin. Robin woke up to see Matron checking her body. Her nightie had been pulled up and her underwear had been pulled down as Matron examined her closely. At Robin's gasp and involuntary grab at her nightie to cover herself, Matron put out her hand, restraining Robin from moving while her other hand pressed into her body, searching for signs of Robin's lost masculinity. Robin screamed, waking something inside. Robin came to consciousness with the echoing scream in her mind. Pushing hard, she felt the barrier between the two personalities stretch, then snap. She felt herself hit a blaze of thoughts, terror, fear. She could see Matron standing over her, forcing her to endure humiliation. Robin snarled, "Get off of me. Get your hands off my body," she shouted at the top of her voice. Matron froze, shocked by the vehemence in the child's voice. Looking up, she saw she wasn't alone in the room. While she had been occupied with her inspection, Misty had quietly entered, standing beside the bed, clutching her bear. It's one good eye seemed to peer into Matron's soul. As Matron was about to yell at Misty to leave, she saw the other children approaching, their faces filled with determination. They had been on alert when Matron visited Robin and had heard the outburst. Robin heard herself shout at Matron. She could sense strange thoughts in her mind, anger, frustration, and humiliation. She could feel another presence, Robin's thoughts. As the children gathered close, staring intently at Matron, her face twisted with anger, then uncertainty. She backed away, turning quickly and retreating to her office. The girls surrounded Robin, offering comfort as they made her decent again. The boys kept watch, standing guard to protect her. The staff, confused and unsure how to handle the situation, stood aside, unsure of what to do. The matron's absence had created an uneasy peace. The girls went to the kitchen as a group, intent on securing food for everyone. The staff, too bewildered to stop them, simply watched. Robin, trying to communicate with Robin through her thoughts, wasn't sure if Robin could hear her until a whisper came back. The connection felt strange, like two radio stations overlapping, but their communication was clear. They had access to each other's memories and spent time sorting through them. By mutual agreement, they decided to merge their identities and use Robin as their shared name, as the body was female at the moment. As their thoughts meshed, the control over their body became easier. They began speaking to Becky, the girl from the kitchen, effortlessly, as if they shared the same mind. Robin was curious about Misty, who had stopped making strange noises when Matron had interfered. Now, Misty sat near Robin, and Robin noticed a tear slip down her cheek. Understanding something deeper, Robin extended a hand, and Misty, seeing the gesture, sat on Robin's bed. Robin pulled her into a comforting hug. Exhausted, Robin finally surrendered to sleep, knowing she was protected by the family of friends who had come together to look after her. Sleep brought with it vivid dreams. Some of the images that were drifting into Robin's dreamscape were of incidents from both her male and female life. Things started to blur until the form in the dream became more ambiguous in nature, neither fully male nor fully female. Misty, watching closely over the sleeping girl, noticed some very slight changes occurring to Robin's face. She looked younger now, more in line with her true age. The face still looked feminine, but her previously prominent chest had become smaller, now more in line with an A-cup size. Unseen to Misty, other changes were occurring beneath the surface. Morning, the next day. Robin woke, feeling strangely buoyant despite the weakness in her body. She listened for the inner voice of Robin, or was it Robin? Oh my, which one am I? She thought, realizing suddenly that she couldn't decide if she were Robin or Robin. Searching back through her memories, she could recall everything without a break, even the transitions between female and male. Conversations with Becky and were clear in her mind, and she could remember the thoughts she had as Robin as clearly as those she had as Robin. We are one, she thought with wonder and contented acceptance. The stress of waking up to find Matron violating her body had destroyed the barrier, joining the two personalities into one. Looking down at herself, she could see changes in her body. Her chest had shrunk. After gently moving Misty from where she had fallen asleep next to her, Robin lifted her nightie to look at her lower body. There, showing a small bulge, was her male anatomy, or what the younger Robin part of her used to call a doodle. Sliding a hand into her underwear, she quietly felt around, discovering that she had both male and female physical features. Her skin, which had been reddened from superficial burns, was now normal, though there was some discomfort and lingering tenderness. Robin lay back down, wondering at what she was, seeing that she was now part boy and part girl. Could she change her body into a full boy again? Or go back to being a girl? Her thoughts drifted back to the pleasant memories of her time in the hospital. Even though she had lived most of her life as a boy, and she could remember everything from that time, the short period spent as a girl while at the hospital stood out as the happiest time. Her previous thoughts of not wanting to be a girl, avoiding it at all costs, were a result of misconceptions that young boys pass among themselves. They weren't derived from any actual rational thoughts. Thinking about the clothes and the sensations she'd felt made her consider continuing her life as mostly female. She attempted to push her male features back inside, using her mind, but failed, too low on energy for now. Maybe after some food and rest, she could try again. She drifted off, feeling better in her mind than she had in a long while. Eye of the storm. Later that same morning, a loud knock heralded the arrival of a miniature whirlwind in a Kelly green three-piece suit. The woman pushed past the staff member who had opened the door and demanded to be taken to the head of the orphanage immediately. On hearing the raised voice of the staff member protesting that the matron was unavailable, the matron decided to confront the problem herself. She came face to face with a woman in her 40s, with sparkling green eyes and shoulder-length reddish-blonde hair, accented with a distinctive gray streak. Her hair was artfully coiffed, giving it a wild, untamed look. The matron took in her visitor's apparent wealth, noticing her well-tailored suit. The Kelly green twilled suit with black piping was clearly custom-made, and the blazer had leather patch sleeves and a crest on the breast pocket. The snugly fitting vest accentuated her physique, and her A-line skirt, ending just above the knee, showed off her well-toned legs. Although only 5 feet 6 inches and weighing about 120 pounds soaking wet, the woman had a presence about her that made the matron feel small, despite the size difference. The matron could only compare her to something fierce, like a Valkyrie, her commanding presence standing in contrast to the matron's own larger frame. "I would like to see Robin Edwards, please," the woman stated firmly. "Just who are you to be asking?" The matron sneered, not bothering to be pleasant. "My name is Stormy Knight, and I've come to take Robin off your hands," she replied, in a no-nonsense manner. She held out a stack of legal paperwork to the matron. "Well then, you're out of luck." "She's not here," the matron blustered, refusing to take the papers. She could see her profits and plans slipping away if she handed Robin over to this woman. Stormy paused, considering the matron's words before carefully choosing her next step. "Then I want to speak with a child by the name of Misty." "She's not here either," the matron lied smoothly. Just then, before things got even more heated, a sleepy little voice spoke up. "I can take you to her." Stormy looked toward the voice and saw a small child uncurl from a corner and stand up. She was about 5 years old. The tiny girl walked timidly toward Stormy, who crouched down and gathered the child into her arms. "And what's your name, honey?" Stormy cooed, stroking the girl's long hair. "I'm Maggie the cat, but people call me Kitten," she said proudly. "Well, Kitten, can you take me to Robin and Misty?" Stormy asked gently. Maggie nodded, even while the matron glared threateningly at her. "Upstairs," Maggie whispered softly. Holding Maggie protectively, Stormy walked up the stairs, pushing past the blocking form of the matron. She gasped involuntarily at the sight of the room. Though she had been somewhat prepared by Dawn's speculations on the conditions, she was still horrified by the squalor. The matron had followed Stormy, but she was soon surrounded by the boys, who prevented her from approaching too close to Robin. Stormy walked up to Robin, who was now awake and aware of the presence of the stranger. Misty looked up and smiled, handing the bear to Stormy. "Is it all on tape?" Stormy asked Misty. "Yes, Mama, every little detail, including matron's mistreatment of Robin," Misty spoke clearly. The matron, suddenly, got a bad feeling about the situation. The mute girl wasn't an imbecile after all, and she called this woman her mother. She turned, thinking to leave, but was stopped by Stormy's firm demand. "Matron, I think your days as the head of this institution have just ended. Please don't leave yet. The authorities might want to speak with you after they see the evidence." Matron turned pale as she watched Stormy open the bear, revealing a tiny LCD camera inside, along with recording electronics and a storage disk. As Stormy pulled out a cell phone from her pocket and made a call, Matron tried again to escape, but the boys had closed ranks and blocked her way. The police were prompt, having been informed of the situation beforehand. "Mama, can we adopt Robin, please?" Misty pleaded. "I'm not going to adopt Robin, at least not her alone," Stormy smiled. "I think we can manage to take 4 if you'd like to share a room." 4. "Mama, you really mean it?" Misty gasped, hugging Stormy tightly, mindful of the child she was still holding. "Well, there's the spare room with the bunk bed and the single bed we use for sleepovers, and I can put another bed in your room. Robin, are there 2 people you'd want to come with us?" Robin was thunderstruck. The thought of moving out and being able to bring 2 of her friends was nothing short of a miracle. "I'd like Becky and Ann to come, if that's okay with them," Robin quickly replied. Becky and Ann ran to Robin, crying and hugging her in thanks, showing their acceptance in no uncertain terms. "Mama, but that's only 3. Who's the 4th? Misty asked, eyes wide. "I'm holding her, Maggie," Stormy smiled. Maggie woke up at the mention of her name. "What? Am I in trouble?" Maggie asked worriedly. "No, honey, you're in great hands now," Stormy said, laughing at her literalism. She cuddled Maggie, whispering to her. "Would you like to come live with us, Kitten? Would you be my new mommy?" Maggie whispered back. "For as long as you want me, "Honey," Stormy replied, her voice thick with emotion. Maggie grabbed Stormy tightly as an answer, tears leaking from her eyes. "Oh, yes, Mommy. Will there be a cushion I can sleep on? The one here is all raggedy." Stormy's eyes misted over, her emotions rising. "Honey, you will sleep in a bed of your own, plus our cushions are huge and fluffy." Maggie sighed, dreaming of a bed all for herself. Snuggling back, she clung to Stormy like a limpet. Feeling protected, she laid her head against Stormy's chest and dozed off, dreaming of cats. Stormy made several more calls on her phone, and while she checked Robin's condition, Becky and were told to gather any possessions they wanted to keep. The staff moved around, confused, as the squad of police photographed various areas of the orphanage and took statements from both children and staff. Some staff members were taken into police custody to face charges of child abuse. Things were beginning to get hectic, and Stormy noticed the children growing stressed and upset. She called them together and calmed them down, explaining what would happen next. She told them that a new temporary staff would be taking over until everything was sorted. Due to the conditions and the poor treatment they had endured, all the children would be placed into foster homes as soon as possible. "I've already organized for 30 children to be fostered by the end of today. The rest, I hope, will be in new homes by the end of the week. In the meantime, fresh food and decent bedding will be provided by several charitable institutions," Stormy quietly explained. The children were silent at first, processing this wonderful news. Then sounds of excited chatter began to swell, followed by tears of joy trickling down hollow cheeks and laughter. A sound foreign to these halls began to grow, filling the room with a new sound, the joyous sound of happiness. The children started to mob Stormy and her daughter, all wanting to touch these angels of mercy who had delivered them from years of misery. Stormy surrendered Maggie to Becky, handing the now-awakened child into her care. Becky took Maggie's hand and whispered how wonderful their new life would be. Robin, meanwhile, had risen from her bed and was feeling elated. Her dream of living in the real world was at long last becoming a reality. She sat on her bed as Becky and Maggie came over to cuddle with her. Misty broke away from the crowd of children surrounding her and sat down next to Robin. "I'd like for you to share my room, if that's okay?" she asked anxiously. "I hope you like pink, because there's a lot of it in my room," she added, smiling encouragingly at Robin. "Thank you, that would be very nice," Robin said shyly.